Brad Pitt was born William Bradley Pitt on December 18, 1963, in Shawnee, Oklahoma, but it was in Springfield, Missouri, where his identity truly began to take shape. Raised in a close-knit household, Brad grew up surrounded by structure, faith, and a strong sense of responsibility. His father, William Alvin Pitt, managed a trucking company, while his mother, Jane Etta, worked as a school counselor, offering emotional support to students and quietly modeling compassion at home. Brad and his two siblings, Doug and Julie, experienced a childhood grounded in routine, respect, and modest expectations. Life was simple but steady, shaped by church attendance, family dinners, and shared responsibilities. These early years instilled discipline and humility, qualities that would remain with him long after fame arrived. Even as a young boy, Brad showed curiosity about people and stories, quietly absorbing the world around him in ways that would later define his craft. Discovering confidence through school and sports. During his school years, Brad emerged as a well-rounded student who comfortably navigated both academics and extracurricular activities. He participated in swimming and tennis, discovering that physical discipline brought clarity and confidence. At the same time, he gravitated toward debate clubs and school theater, spaces where expression mattered more than winning. Standing on stage gave him a sense of freedom he could not find elsewhere, a place where emotion, imagination, and vulnerability were welcome. Teachers noticed his natural presence and ability to hold attention, even when he spoke softly. Brad did not see himself as destined for stardom, but he felt an undeniable pull toward performance. These experiences allowed him to explore different sides of his personality while building self-awareness. Long before cameras and red carpets, Brad was learning how to observe, listen, and inhabit other perspectives, skills that would later become central to his success as an actor. Choosing journalism. Before choosing himself. After graduating high school, Brad enrolled at the University of Missouri, selecting journalism with a focus on advertising as his major. At the time, it felt practical and respectable, aligning with expectations rather than passion. Yet something inside him remained restless. While attending classes, he quietly joined a local theater group drawn back to the stage as if by instinct. He also experimented with on-camera work, including a brief stint as a television weatherman, which helped him grow comfortable speaking to unseen audiences. As graduation approached, Brad faced an internal crossroads. He realized journalism did not excite him in the way acting did. The idea of living a safe but unfulfilling life felt heavier than the fear of uncertainty. Just weeks before earning his degree, Brad made the difficult decision to leave college and pursue acting. It was a leap of faith fueled not by confidence, but by honesty with himself. Leaving home with almost nothing. Brad arrived in Los Angeles carrying little more than determination and a few $100s. He had no famous connections, no guaranteed opportunities, and no safety net. The city was overwhelming, fast-paced, and indifferent to dreams. To survive, he took any job he could find. Delivering appliances, driving clients, working odd shifts, often exhausting himself just to afford rent. Nights were spent attending acting classes and rehearsing monologues in cramped apartments. Rejection became routine. Auditions ended with polite smiles and unanswered callbacks. Yet Brad remained persistent, not because he believed success was certain, but because he believed giving up would feel worse. Each small role and failed audition taught him something new about patience, discipline, and self-belief. These years shaped his resilience more than any later award ever could. They taught him that success is not built on luck alone, but on quiet endurance when no one is watching. Learning the craft one role at a time. Brad's earliest acting work consisted of small television appearances and brief film roles that rarely made headlines. Still, he approached each opportunity with seriousness and curiosity. Whether he had one line or several scenes, he studied scripts carefully and observed more experienced actors on set. He treated every project as a classroom. Slowly, casting directors began to notice his professionalism and reliability. Brad did not try to present himself as a finished star. Instead, he embraced being a student of the craft. Acting classes became sacred spaces where he experimented, failed, and grew. These formative years helped him understand that acting was not about looking good on camera, but about truthfully inhabiting a character's emotional world. The foundation he built during this period allowed him to transition naturally from background roles to more meaningful parts. His rise was gradual, shaped by discipline rather than sudden discovery. Thelma and Louise and a turning point. In 1991, Brad landed a small but unforgettable role in Thelma and Louise as J.D., a charming drifter whose brief appearance left a lasting impression. Though his screen time was limited, his presence was magnetic. Audiences noticed him immediately, and casting directors took note. Overnight, Brad became a name people wanted to learn more about. The attention was both exciting and unsettling. While the industry began labeling him a heartthrob, Brad understood that looks alone would not sustain a career. He became more selective, searching for roles that offered depth rather than simple appeal. Thelma and Louise did not make him a star in the traditional sense, but it opened doors that had previously been locked. More importantly, it confirmed that his instincts to pursue acting were not misplaced. For the first time, Brad could envision a future in film that extended beyond survival, proving he was more than a pretty face. Following his breakthrough, Brad chose roles that challenged expectations. Films like A River Runs Through It and Legends of the Fall allowed him to explore emotional vulnerability, while Interview with the Vampire showcased his willingness to step into darker, more complex territory. Rather than leaning into romantic leads exclusively, Brad actively sought characters with internal conflict. He wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, not just admired as a celebrity. Each project expanded his emotional range and technical skill. Critics began acknowledging his growth, recognizing subtlety in his performances that went beyond physical presence. Brad was quietly building a reputation as someone who cared deeply about storytelling. This period marked an important shift in how audiences perceived him. He was no longer simply a rising star, he was becoming a respected performer capable of carrying layered narratives. Embracing darkness in C7 and Brad's collaboration with director David Fincher on CI7 in 1995 represented a major turning point. The film's bleak atmosphere and psychological intensity pushed Brad far outside his comfort zone. His portrayal of a young detective confronting the darkest corners of human nature required emotional restraint and moral ambiguity. Rather than seeking likability, Brad leaned into discomfort. C7 demonstrated that he was willing to take creative risks, even if they challenged his image. The film's success solidified his status as a leading man while simultaneously redefining what that label could mean. Brad proved he could anchor serious, unsettling material without relying on traditional charm. It was a bold step that reshaped his career trajectory and deepened his artistic credibility. Recognition for 12 Monkeys. Later that same year, Brad surprised audiences again with his role as Jeffrey Goins in 12 Monkeys. The character was erratic, unpredictable, and emotionally volatile, far removed from the stoic figures he had previously portrayed. Brad embraced the chaos of the role, delivering a performance that was raw and fearless. His work earned him a Golden Globe Award and his first Academy Award nomination. More importantly, it confirmed that he was not afraid to look strange, unstable, or unflattering if the story demanded it. Brad began developing a reputation as an actor who prioritized substance over vanity. This willingness to dismantle his own image became one of his greatest strengths. He was no longer chasing approval, he was chasing truth. Fight Club and cultural immortality. In 1999, Brad reunited with David Fincher for Fight Club, a film that would become one of the most discussed and dissected movies of its era. His portrayal of Tyler Durden was both charismatic and unsettling, embodying rebellion, nihilism, and fractured identity. The film initially divided critics but gradually achieved cult status. Brad's performance stood at the center of its impact. He captured the dangerous appeal of a character who represented both freedom and destruction. Fight Club cemented Brad as a cultural icon, but it also reinforced his pattern of choosing unconventional material. Rather than playing it safe, he continued to gravitate towards stories that challenged audiences to question themselves, balancing blockbusters and intimacy. Throughout the 2000s, Brad alternated between large-scale productions and intimate character studies. Films like Troy required intense physical preparation, while projects like Babel and The Assassination of Jesse James demanded emotional subtlety. This balance allowed him to avoid stagnation. He refused to be boxed into a single genre or persona. Each role became an opportunity to explore a different aspect of humanity. Brad understood that longevity in Hollywood required evolution. He did not chase trends. He followed curiosity. This approach helped him remain relevant while preserving his artistic integrity. A complicated relationship with fame. Brad's personal life became increasingly public as his fame grew. His marriage to Jennifer Aniston was celebrated, while its eventual end was scrutinized relentlessly. Later, his relationship with Angelina Jolie brought global attention that often overshadowed his work. Brad struggled with the weight of constant observation. He has spoken about feeling disconnected from himself during certain periods, losing sight of who he was beneath the headlines. Fame, he learned, could distort reality. These experiences forced Brad to confront uncomfortable truths about identity, ego, and responsibility. Rather than retreat completely, he began seeking ways to ground himself through family, therapy, and creative focus. Fatherhood and responsibility. Becoming a father profoundly reshaped Brad's priorities. Raising children introduced a level of accountability that extended beyond career ambitions. He became more selective about projects, more protective of his time, and more reflective about the example he wanted to set. Fatherhood softened him while also strengthening his resolve to grow. Brad has described parenting as both humbling and transformative. It forced him to confront his own flaws and commit to continuous improvement. His children became his greatest motivation to pursue sobriety, emotional honesty, and stability. Confronting addiction and seeking help. For many years, Brad Pitt carried his struggles quietly, trying to manage pain and pressure behind a composed public image. Alcohol became a way to numb emotions he did not yet know how to face. Over time, the impact on his relationships, self-worth, and clarity became impossible to ignore. Admitting the problem was not dramatic or cinematic. It was deeply uncomfortable and humbling. Brad has spoken about reaching a point where he understood that continuing on the same path would cost him everything that truly mattered. Seeking help required vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to sit with difficult feelings instead of escaping them. Recovery was not a quick fix, nor did it erase the past, but it opened a door toward awareness and accountability. Sobriety became more than quitting a substance. It became a commitment to live with intention. He began listening more, reflecting more, and approaching life with a quieter, steadier presence. By sharing parts of this journey publicly, Brad offered something rare, a reminder that growth is possible even after long periods of struggle. Healing, he learned, is not about becoming perfect. It is about choosing to keep moving forward, one honest step at a time. Living with face blindness. When Brad revealed that he lives with prosopagnosia, or face blindness, many people were surprised. The condition makes recognizing faces difficult, even those of people he has met multiple times. For Brad, this has created moments of awkwardness, misunderstanding, and social discomfort throughout his life. He has described feeling anxious in social situations, worried that others might interpret his difficulty as disinterest or arrogance. Speaking openly about this challenge required courage, especially in an industry built on recognition and networking. By sharing his experience, Brad helped bring awareness to a little-known condition while also offering insight into his own internal world. It explained why he sometimes seemed distant or withdrawn, when in reality he was navigating a neurological difference. His honesty humanized him in a powerful way. It reminded people that public figures, no matter how famous, carry invisible struggles. Brad's openness reinforced an important truth. Challenges do not disappear with success. They simply take different forms, and learning to live with them is part of being human. Later career renaissance Brad's portrayal of Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood marked a new chapter in his artistic journey. The character was understated, layered, and quietly magnetic, a departure from louder, more traditionally showy roles. Brad brought warmth, melancholy, and subtle humor to the performance, allowing complexity to exist beneath the surface. When he won his first Acting Academy Award for the role, the moment felt less like a dramatic victory and more like a gentle acknowledgement of decades of work. Brad accepted the recognition with humility, framing it as encouragement rather than a final destination. The performance symbolized a broader renaissance in his career, one defined by confidence in simplicity and trust in nuance. He no longer felt the need to prove himself through extremes. Instead, he leaned into stillness, restraint, and emotional authenticity. This phase reflects an artist who understands his strengths deeply and continues to explore them with curiosity. A legacy of evolution. Brad Pitt's career cannot be defined by a single era, genre, or image. It is a story of constant evolution. From heartthrob to character actor, from leading man to producer, he has repeatedly reshaped his creative identity. This willingness to change has allowed him to remain relevant without losing authenticity. His legacy is not built on perfection, but on growth. He has taken risks, made missteps, learned publicly, and kept moving forward. Each chapter reveals a person more interested in discovery than comfort. This mindset has kept his work alive and his perspective grounded. Rather than clinging to past success, Brad continues to explore new territory. His journey illustrates that longevity is not about staying the same. It is about staying open, the human behind the icon. Beneath the global recognition, Brad remains a person navigating the same fundamental questions as anyone else. Who am I becoming? What matters most? How do I live with integrity? He has made mistakes, faced consequences, and worked to understand himself more honestly. This ongoing self-examination is what gives his story depth. He is not defined by flawless triumph, but by the willingness to confront discomfort and grow from it. Brad's humanity is found in his imperfections, his vulnerability, and his persistence. He continues searching for meaning through relationships, creativity, and service. That search, more than fame or accolades, defines who he is. Conclusion. Brad Pitt's life is not simply the story of a movie star. It is the story of a person who has stumbled, learned, and evolved in full view of the world. His journey reflects perseverance, self-awareness, and a commitment to becoming better, not just more successful. Through creative risks, personal accountability, and a desire to contribute beyond himself, he has shaped a legacy rooted in depth rather than spectacle. His path reminds us that growth is lifelong, and that even in the midst of extraordinary circumstances, the most meaningful work is often internal.